Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 6. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajakachaja Stotara Sata Shri Srimadesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gora Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 6. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudatma mityachara sa uchyate. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudatma mityaichara sa uchyate. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mityachara sa uchyate. Karmaindriyani, the 5 working sense organs. Samyamya, controlling. Ya, anyone. Who. Aste, remains. Manasa, by mind. Smaran, thinking. Indriya arthan, sense objects. Vimudha, foolish. Atma, soul. Mityaya achara, pretender. Sa-i, uchyate, is called. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who restrains the senses and organs of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Purport. There are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness, but make a show of meditation while actually dwelling within the mind upon sense enjoyment. Such pretenders may also speak on dry philosophy in order to bluff sophisticated followers, but according to this verse, they are the greatest cheaters. For sense enjoyment, one can act in any capacity of the social order, but if one follows the rules and regulations of his particular status, he can make gradual progress in purifying his existence. But he who makes a show of being a yogi while actually searching for the objects of sense gratification may be called the greatest cheater, even though he sometimes speaks of philosophy. His knowledge has no value because the effects of such a sinful man's knowledge are taken away by the illusory energy of the Lord. Such pretenders' mind is always impure, and therefore his show of yogic meditation has no value whatsoever. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mityachara sa uchyate. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, I think it's in the 8 chapters, he defines 4 kinds of people who do not surrender to him. He says, Namam duskritino muda prapadyante. Prapadyante means to surrender, and na means not, mam means to me. So namam duskritino muda prapadyante naradamaha mayaya parita jnana asuram bhavamashritaha. So these 4 people are called duskritina. Kritina means to do something. Kriti, to do. And dus means something which is counterproductive, something which is illusory, which is not the truth. So duskritina means people like we see today in our society in which we live. We have powerful politicians, political leaders, professors, leaders in knowledge, leaders in sport, arts, music. But all their activities are based on the illusion of being the body. Therefore, they are called duskritina. They are kritina. They are good activities. They are meritorious activities. It requires a brain to become a top politician. It requires great power. It requires great intelligence to become a scientist. It is not that there is no meritorious activity there. There is quality there, but that quality is used in the wrong way. And because it is used in the wrong way, they are called duskritina. Wrong way means that instead of going towards the truth, these so-called leaders are moving away from the truth into illusion. So, and these are 4 kinds. First is the muda. Muda means someone like an ass. You know, the ass, we don't see many asses these days, but when I was a child and grew up, we used to use asses and mules on the farm. And of course in India, in the old days when I first went there in the mid-70s, most of the dobiwalas, or the people who were doing the laundry, they used mules to carry, asses to carry the load of clothes. So this ass, you see, he would work all day for his master, carrying huge load, and the reward was a little bit of straw, a little bit of food at the end of the day. This straw, this dry grass and straw, is available everywhere. If the ass runs away and goes into the forest, he can live quite comfortably. He doesn't require to carry any burden on his back. But he's too stupid to understand this. So there are people like this, they are called mudas, that they work very hard for something which they can get for free. In fact, with our birth, we are given so much enjoyment and so much distress. We are given so much facilities for eating, sleeping, for our sex life, for our intercourse in society. All this is given to us according to our karma. We cannot change it. In fact, there are some yogis, some jnanis and yogis, people who practice spiritual life. They're still there in the Himalayas and in some of the forests in India and holy places. They practice what is known as the python posture. They simply sit under a tree and they don't ask and do anything. And automatically people come, bring them food, automatically food comes to them. Just like a python snake. This python doesn't go hunting for a prey. He simply stays on the forest path and he opens his mouth, and when an animal comes within range, boom, he eats it. So mudas, they don't understand that this life is the result of the previous life. And how we react in this life to the results of the previous life, that reaction will again cause reaction which will take us into the next life. This is going on, life after life after life. And one who doesn't understand this is called a muda. So this is the first person that Krishna says doesn't have the intelligence or the piety to surrender to me. And Naradamaha. Naradamaha means, Nara means man, and Adhama means the lowest among mankind. These are people who actually have intelligence, have knowledge, have facilities. They are born as leaders of men. They have sufficient wealth, sufficient influence, sufficient power, but they do not surrender to God. Therefore, they are considered to be the lowest among mankind, because although they have facilities, although they have the brains, the intelligence, and the material facilities to make spiritual advancement, to take advancement from the Vedas, they refuse to do so. Therefore, they are called Nara Adhama, the old mankind. These are the worst of the lot. So, Namam Duskriti Numuda Prapadyante Naradamaha Maya Yaparita Jnana. Maya means illusion, Apharhita means to be stolen away, and Jnana means knowledge. These are the people who actually do practice knowledge. They do take advantage of the Vedic wisdom and study Vedic knowledge, but they don't surrender to Krishna. They maintain their false ego. They maintain the I and my, that I am studying. They maintain the process of trying to understand God by our material senses. But actually, that knowledge that they have is Maya Aparita. It is stolen away by illusion because it comes to a dead end. And the fourth class of man who doesn't surrender to Krishna is Asura Bhava, one whose nature is demoniac, who because of his previous offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord, he hasn't got the piety to surrender or to understand God. There is no God. I am God. So, to understand God by the process of illusion, by the process of knowledge, it is not possible. God is so great, Vishnu Mahan. Vishnu is Mahan, so great that you cannot understand him by your own endeavors, whether in renunciation, whether in knowledge, whether in yoga. It is not possible to understand the greatness of God any more than it is possible for a frog in the well to understand the vastness of the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean. Because the frog is living within the well and he is conscious of the limitations of the well, he can only expand his consciousness to the degree that he expands his understanding of the well. So 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, 1,000,000, but he can never understand the vastness of the ocean. And this is explained by Lord Brahma in the Brahma Samhita. There is one very beautiful verse which says that yasyasya nisvashita kala matavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanatha Vishnur Mahan Sahiya Yasya Kala Visheshu Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, whose partial expansion is the Mahavishnu, who is lying in the causal ocean, the Karana ocean, and through his one breath the whole universe is existing. Some time ago I gave the example of the length of the breath, which is connected to the size of the body. In other words, a small ant is breathing process, taking a breath in and out, is a split second. When I take a breath as a human being with my size body, in and out, that takes 7-8 seconds, because my body is bigger than the body of the ant. Body of the elephant takes a breath in and out, it almost takes 1 minute. And even bigger animal, for example, a whale, it breathes in and out every 10-11 minutes. And this duration of the breath, which increases, is in proportion to the size of the body. Now, what size body must the Purusha, must Lord Vishnu have, that if within his breath the whole universe is existing? Jagat Andanatha. Jagadanda means the egg of the universe, and Natha means the controller of this universe. That means Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma's life, if you add it up, 100 years, comes to 311 trillion solar years. 311 trillion. Can you imagine that number? Not million, not billion, trillion. 311 trillion. That is half a breath of the Purusha Mahavishnu. So what kind of body, what size of body must the Mahavishnu have? It must be so huge, you cannot imagine how big it can be to contain this half breath. And that Vishnu is only a partial expansion of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, Govindam Adi Purusham, who is the original person. So it is impossible and it is not advised to try and understand God by our own limited resources. So what is the process? The process of understanding God is to hear from someone who is connected with God. To hear from someone, the only way you can understand God is if God agrees to be understood by you. If by your endeavor you satisfy Krishna, Krishna can reveal himself to you. Sevan mukhi jivado, that beginning with serving by chanting Swayam eva spurati yada, that automatically knowledge of God becomes manifested in the heart. How does it become manifested in the heart? Knowledge of God becomes manifested in the heart because God is present there as a super soul, and from him this knowledge is coming. And if you surrender to the process, if instead of trying to understand God by your own effort, if you simply surrender to him, if you develop sufficient sincerity and humility, and in this verse Krishna is saying, unless you're humble and sincere, you're simply pretending. You cannot pretend to be knowledgeable unless You cannot, pretense doesn't work, because pretense means illusion. Pretense means you're showing something which is not really there. But when you actually surrender to Krishna in the heart, and you pray to him to please become revealed to me, in other words, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, don't try to see God. It is not possible to see God by your meager attempts. Rather, act in such a way that God will want to see you. And that, when that happens, that knowledge of God, his greatness, becomes imperceptibly, becomes mysteriously, magically revealed in the heart. Just like a small child, he has full faith in his father. He doesn't know how, but he knows that my father is great and he can give me full protection. He doesn't understand how great his father is. He doesn't have to. Just like there is an example Prabhupada gives, very nice example, that one day he was traveling in the tram with his small son. Prabhupada had 3 sons. One of his sons was a small child, and they were traveling in a tram in Calcutta. When I first went to Calcutta in 1976, there were still some tram lines. They were called trolleys. Anyhow, Prabhupada was on the tram, and the conductor came and he asked for the ticket. And then, to cut a joke, he said to the little child, "Give me your ticket." And the child didn't know, he didn't have a ticket. He was confused. So the conductor said, "Well, you don't have a ticket, you have to get down from the tram." So the child looked at him, and he looked at his father and said, "No," he said, "my father is here." So the little boy, the child, he was totally convinced of the protection of his father. Never mind conductors or tickets or anything. He knew, my father can protect me. This knowledge that Krishna can protect us as our Supreme Father is available if you become humble, if you become sincere. You don't know how, but it becomes there. Even Lord Brahma, he had his Leela with Krishna. He tried to show off his mystic power to Krishna by stealing Krishna's friends and cows and calves. But Krishna defeated him. And in the end, when Brahma fell down at the lotus feet of Krishna, he offered so many prayers. And he wasn't even sure whether Krishna had appreciated or accepted his prayers, because Krishna did not communicate anything to Brahma. Krishna, it says in Krishna book that Krishna is thinking, who is this demigod? Why is he bowing down before me? And then Brahma said, Jananta eva janantu, kim bahukyana me prabhu. The Jananta eva janantu. People can know whatever they want to know, and they can say whatever they want to say. Kim bahukyana me prabhu. But I don't want to say very much about this. Manaso vapuso vacho, either by my mind, Manasa, vapusu by my body, vacho by my word, vaibhavam tava gochara. That my mind, my words, my body cannot begin to understand your glories. And this is the process. God will reciprocate with you, if you become humble. And then by his mercy, you can understand how he can be such a great personality. And then, once you understand that, you will never deviate from the path of devotional service. It is such a wonderful knowledge. It is like a child having faith in his father. It is a conditional total protection. You get a conditional complete protection from Krishna. You don't even know how it happens. But it does happen through the Lord in the heart. Therefore, in the Gita, Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridisane vishnu. I am situated in everyone's heart. Matta smriti jnanam apoanam cha. I am giving every living entity remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Vedais cha sarvair aham eva vedyo. The purpose of studying all the Vedas is to understand me. Vedanta Krit, I am the compiler of Vedanta. Vedavid, I am the knowledge of the Vedas, it is me. The purpose of knowledge is to understand God. We have no other business. Everything else is simply a sideshow. This business of nationality, family, friendship, knowledge, material position, it is all a temporary show. The reality is the reflection of this. This material world appears real to us because it is a reflection of the real thing. It's like going to a movie. When you sit in a movie, in a cinema, you become absorbed in the scene of the film, in the activities and the act and the words of the actors, and you become involved as if it was a reality. The reason that a movie is so real to the moviegoer is because it reflects the reality of the real world. In the same way, if you extrapolate this proposition, the reality of the material world which we see appears real because it is a reflection of the spiritual reality. You might say, well, I don't know about spiritual reality. I only have material reality. I'm happy in this material reality. Krishna says, no, you're not happy. Dukhalayama shashwatam. Krishna says, Mamupetya punarjama dukhalayama shashwatam. He gives a definition of this world in which we live. He gives a definition of what is the worth of nation, friendship, love, family. And his definition is dukhalayam. It is full of misery. And even if you don't see the misery, even if you're fortunate enough to be born in an advantageous position, if you're fortunate enough to have a good family, to have a good health, to have wealth, and to have fortune, it is ashashwatam. It is temporary. What is the point? What is the point of becoming materially successful if you have to give everything up at the moment of death? What is the point of going to the casino to gamble if you cannot take your winnings home with you? Nobody would go and gamble in such a place. So we are gambling our very existence day in, day out. At any moment we can die. We have no guarantee how many breaths we have left in this body. And when we die, we lose everything. And the most important thing that we lose is if we die in ignorance, if we die absorbed in trying to satisfy our senses, we lose our material human body. We lose our possibility to exercise our independence to make spiritual progress. If we simply live to satisfy the senses, we can get sense satisfaction much more easily in the body of an animal. Animals don't have to struggle to satisfy their senses. When I go out in the morning in my back garden, there's so many trees there and the birds are flying. They're going here and there. Always one pair of birds, a male and a female. They have their nests. They know where to get their food. They don't have to fly any flags. They don't have to advertise themselves as being servants of anyone. Everything is supplied to them by the energy of material nature. But they lack this independence of making spiritual progress. To make spiritual progress, you require a human body. And you get to keep the human body if you actually use it for the purpose for which the body was given to you. If you misuse the purpose for which the human body is given to you, you lose it. This is the idea. So don't lose this material body. Become a Mahatma. Krishna says, Napnuvanti Mahatmanaha Samsiddhim Paramam Gataha. One who has become siddhi, perfect, he becomes a Mahatma and he doesn't come back to this Dukhalayam Ashashvatam, this temporary, miserable material world. Don't risk your life. This is the essence of Prabhupada's teachings. Prabhupada taught us to be very, very pessimistic about material enjoyment, to be very pessimistic about the material world in which we live in. Don't put your faith in anything, political, familial, tribal, knowledge, art, whatever it may be. Don't put your faith in this material world, because it is guaranteed by Krishna to be a miserable temporary place. Good. Thank you very much, and we'll see each other next Wednesday. So we have some comments from our friends. Anna Maria, Hare Krishna. My business to the devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Our nice God brother Admavidya Prabhu, Dandavas to the assembled devotees. All glories to Mahavishnu, absolutely. Vishnu Mahan, he is the great Vishnu. And then Vishnu Vamsa, Krishna Katha forever, in Kartik month and Diwali. Yes, Diwali is very popular in India, it's the new year. But the main reason for Diwali being what it is because it celebrates the return of Lord Ramachandra from Lanka to Ayodhya. Anna Maria, according to the Bhagavad Gita 13.8, humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. How would you define humility according to your own experience? And how to become humble? How to become humble? You don't become, you actually act in a humble way. Be humble. Trinad api sunichena. Be more humble than the grass. The grass is being stepped upon, it doesn't protest, it gives a nice cushion to the foot or the very person that oppresses it. And taro riva sahisnuna. And the tree, to be tolerant like the tree, which always gives and doesn't take, never protests. So we get this humility by desiring it and by chanting the holy name. The combination of chanting the holy name, Kirtaniya Sadahari, and always glorifying Krishna. Kirtaniya means to glorify Krishna either by chanting or by hearing. Right now we are glorifying Krishna. We are not talking about anybody else. We are not putting anybody else as more important than Krishna. No, Krishna is the most important. So Sadahari, if we maintain this consciousness, always Sada, then automatically our desire for humility and tolerance becomes manifested. The soul is automatically, by definition, humble and tolerant. It only forgets its humility and tolerance when it identifies with a temporary body, when it competes with others. Because when you're in competition, then you have to be aggressive, otherwise you don't win. But if we are not in competition, if we understand that we are eternal servants of God, then automatically our humility will come to the surface. Good. Thank you very much. If you have any more comments, please keep posting. And until Wednesday. Hare Krishna.